the video, that is the first time detectives learned that there was actually 4 people in that gray Jeep. And that the defendant, Jamel Demons, is in the rear driver's side seat.
New footage just hit the internet, and it could flip the entire YNW Melly homicide case on its head. For the first time, we're seeing what really went down that night with Bortlen and Melly. And the twist is insane. Somebody turned on their own brother when the walls closed in, and that betrayal shook the whole crew to the core. October 26, 2018 started off like just another night in the trap. Young hustlers in the studio, chasing dreams, ducking enemies, and plotting on the come-up. But by sunrise, 2 young stars were lying lifeless, and their day one brother was in the county jail facing double homicide charges. This is the raw truth of how chasing fame and fast money can twist loyalty into bloodshed, one of the coldest betrayals hip-hop has ever seen. The YNW crew had been locked in since they were kids, running wild through Gifford, Florida, a place where you either make it big or end up in a grave. YNW Melly, born Jamel Demons, was blowing up heavy off his hit Murder on My Mind, and the whole game had eyes on him. But success always brings pressure, and cracks were starting to show between him and his brothers. YNW Sack Chaser, Anthony Williams, 21, and YNW Juvie, Christopher Thomas Jr., 19. These weren't just some random homies. They were family by bond, born out of the same struggle. The beef had been bubbling for months, and it all boiled down to money. When Melly signed that deal with 300 Entertainment for somewhere between $200,000 and $500,000 back in July 2018, his homies felt cut out of the picture. Later, the feds dug up text messages showing Sack Chaser pressing Melly hard for his share, even writing, "You blowing up, we are still eating crumbs. Pay up or we're done." In Gifford, loyalty was life, and once betrayal hit, there was no turning back. The YNW movement was born from pain, poverty, and survival. They had already faced shootouts, funerals, and nights of hunger just trying to climb out the dirt together. For years, the YNW crew moved like one body. Success for one was supposed to mean success for all. But the music game is cutthroat, and Melly's rocket rise to fame cracked bonds that once looked unshakable. His collaboration with Kanye West on Mixed Personalities sent him to superstar status.
The vibes look decent, I'm gonna be honest with you. It don't look like nobody kind of beefing, nobody look too excited. You know, if somebody kind of got into it, like, niggas might be like, they're not just walking normal. Like, everybody looks kind of chill.
Opening doors his childhood brothers couldn't even walk through. That major label life came stacked with foreign whips, heavy ice, and celebrity links, while his day ones were still in Gifford fighting the same street wars they grew up in. The gang politics only made the tension worse. As YNW Bloods, also called the Gifford Slimes, they lived by a code, a hierarchy where respect came from sweat, scars, and sacrifice. But Melly's solo shine tipped the scale, and jealousy spread like wildfire.
The Sack Chaser, where does he get in? Good. Remember they said it was a gray vehicle. He gets into, this is Juvie, I said, right? He gets into the front right side.
Not just in his crew, but all across the network. By the time that fatal night pulled up, loyalty to his brothers was colliding with loyalty to the set, and there was no way to hold both down.
Melly comes, and Melly goes to the back passenger. Yeah.
The crew was locked in at New Era recording studios, laying down tracks like usual. On the surface, it looked like just another late-night grind. But behind those calm faces, the storm was already brewing. At 4:08 a.m., surveillance footage showed all 4 sliding out, loading into a rented gray Jeep Compass.
He even shot through the seat multiple times, and there was no defense wounds to be like, stop. You get me? It was that quick. Bang, 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 bang. That quick. When
that seating chart alone would end up telling the story of who was about to ride shotguns. Sack Chaser climbed into what the streets call the death seat, while Melly took the back left, what prosecutors later described as the perfect angle for an ambush. The DA swears that wasn't random. They claim as the Jeep rolled down those dark back roads near Miramar Parkway, sometime between 4:10 and 4:20 a.m., Melly opened fire from the back seat, catching his homies off guard. It was over in seconds, too quick, too precise, like it had been mapped out step for step. The autopsy painted a chilling picture. Stippling from unburnt gunpowder covered the wounds, proving those bullets were fired point blank. No defensive wounds, no struggle. Sack Chaser and Juvie never even saw it coming. They probably thought they were safe, just cruising with their brother, until betrayal struck out of nowhere like lightning. Even veteran homicide detectives admitted it was one of the coldest setups they'd ever seen. Sack Chaser's fatal shot ripped through the back of his skull and exploded out the top, with so much force it shattered the passenger side window. Juvie was hit in the left cheek at close range, the bullet's path proving he was just looking ahead when the trigger got pulled. The angles made it clear, both were blindsided, no warning, no chance to even flinch. And the deeper they dug, the darker it got. That back road with no cameras, no witnesses, it wasn't random, it was a trap. Both victims were hit multiple times with extra rounds pumped through the seats, showing this wasn't rage at the moment, it was a calculated execution. The absence of struggle told the whole story. The shooter had the element of surprise and total control, but the aftermath revealed something even sicker. Forensic experts later discovered extra shots fired after the victims were already gone, suggesting the scene was staged right there while the blood was still fresh. Imagine that, covering up the crime before the smoke even cleared.
To stage the shooting, because they believe people were already dead, they hopped out the car and then they shot up the car afterwards, and they believe those bullet casings they found at that spot was a .40 caliber.
Every clue screamed premeditation, from the setup to the shots to the cleanup plan. But the coldest twist? Prosecutors claim what happened after the bodies dropped proved this was no heat-of-the-moment crime. This was chess, not checkers, a ruthless play out of a slayer's handbook. After the trigger was pulled, the alleged shooters didn't just leave. They drove the bodies to a secluded spot, hopped out, and riddled the car from the outside with a different gun.
And Mr. Demmons responds very succinctly, "I did that."
The plan? To make it look like a random drive-by gone wrong. By 4:35 a.m., YNW Bortlen rolled up to Memorial Hospital Miramar with 2 lifeless bodies still sitting in the car. Cool as ice, he told doctors and cops that his boys got sprayed in a drive-by, but the story didn't line up for a second. And where was Melly? Prosecutors say he vanished right after staging the scene, leaving Bortlen to handle the bodies and sell the lie. The DA's so-called smoking gun didn't come from a witness, it came from Melly's own social media. After word spread, people checked in on him asking if he was straight. His response? Just 2 words that sent shockwaves: "I did that." Prosecutors call it nothing less than a cold-blooded confession to taking out his own brothers. And the motive? According to both the DA and the streets, it was that toxic recipe of money, envy, and gang politics. The same fatal combo that's ripped apart countless crews long before the feds even show up. Melly's rise brought big bags, but also big beef inside the squad. His shine was bending the power structure of their blood set, the YNW Bloods, aka the Gifford Slimes. And when cash and loyalty collide in the hood, history proves somebody usually ends up in a coffin. What makes it even more twisted is how close they really were. Melly had their names inked right on his face while they were still alive. Proof to the world that these weren't just homies, they were supposed to be his ride-or-die brothers. These weren't random rivals. These were childhood friends, bonded by the same struggle.
And they sit and they walk side by side for an hour, that mile-long stretch, looking for evidence of this drive-by. Because evidence is the remnants a crime leaves behind. And in this case, the lack of evidence is very important.
Hustling side by side and dreaming of making it big through music. Detectives didn't need long to figure out this wasn't some routine hood shooting. The evidence uncovered a cover-up so methodical it almost worked. What started off looking like a drive-by spiraled into one of Florida's most complicated forensic cases ever. The deeper they dug, the clearer it became. They weren't just dealing with another street hit, they were staring at a criminal chessboard move from somebody who thought he could outsmart the whole system. When Miramar PD pulled up to the hospital, they locked down that Jeep on site and started grilling Bortlen about what really happened. His version sounded like straight street talk, claiming they were cruising home from the studio when some random shooters rolled up and sprayed the ride. But when detectives tried to match the story with evidence, what they uncovered had everybody scratching their heads. Police shut down a whole stretch of Miramar Parkway from 160 to 172, combing that mile of road for more than an hour. They were hunting for shell casings, broken glass, bullet fragments, anything to back up Bortlen's tale. But it was bone dry. No casings, no shattered windows on the ground, no bullet marks in the pavement, not even skid marks from a car speeding away. Nothing at all. When investigators pushed the search another mile, the results were the same. cleaner than a polished floor. And that didn't make sense at all, considering the Jeep itself looked like it had been through battle. 16 bullet holes punched through the body, a rear window blown clean out, and 2 side windows shredded. If this had been a real drive-by, the street should have been glowing with evidence. Veteran cops knew the truth. Real drive-bys always leave a mess. Casings on the ground, glass shards scattered across lanes, bullets lodged in nearby walls, cars or trees, even skid marks from a getaway ride. But here, zero. That wasn't just suspicious, it was almost impossible. And the Jeep told its own story. 16 bullet strikes, metal body torn up, windows obliterated.
Video. That is the first time detectives learned that there was actually 4 people in that gray Jeep. And that the defendant, Jamel Demons, is in the rear driver's side seat.
Yet not a single trace left at the alleged scene. The math didn't add up, and detectives knew it. Then came the smoking detail, the glass. Crime scene techs noticed something off. Normally, when a car's windows get blown out while rolling, shards scatter down the roadway in the direction of travel. But here, nothing. Not a sliver. That pointed to one thing. The Jeep's windows weren't shot out on Miramar Parkway like Bortlen swore. They were blasted somewhere else entirely. That's when investigators flipped the script and worked backwards like seasoned crime scene pros. They retraced the crew's steps all the way to New Era recording studios. And that's where the real break came, because that spot had cameras watching everything. That's when the lies started crumbling fast. Bortlen forgot to mention that Melly was even in the car that night. Think about it. If the Jeep really got sprayed up in a drive-by, Melly should have caught at least 1 bullet too. Unless he wasn't a victim at all, but part of the setup. And the footage made things even shadier. The timestamp showed the crew leaving at 3:19 a.m., not the earlier time Bortlen swore up and down was true. Even crazier, the cameras showed all 4 of them leaving the studio cool as ice. No stress, no paranoia, no signs of beef, and definitely no fear of being followed. If ops were supposedly lurking, their body language didn't reflect it. Instead, it looked like just another night of recording, joking around, and vibing. Nothing hinting at the fatal betrayal about to unfold.
Because at that location is where the cell phones of Christopher Thomas, Anthony Williams, and Jamel Demons all line up at 4:02 a.m. That point, afterwards, Mr. Demons' phone tracks with the 2 victims until about 4:20.
That footage alone blew a hole in Bortlen's claim that the shots came after some sudden fight or argument. But the real nail in the coffin was him forgetting to say Melly was in the whip. That wasn't no slip of memory. That was a major omission, screaming deliberate deception. If he was lying about who was in the car, what else was he trying to hide? That's when detectives turned to tech and the case leveled up big time. Investigators pulled cell tower data, and what they found gave them a minute-by-minute breakdown of every move that night. Records showed Melly's phone, Sack Chaser's phone, and Juvie's phone all pinged at the exact same remote location near US 27 and Pembroke Road at 4:02 a.m., the exact window when the slayings allegedly went down. The phone stayed parked there for 18 long minutes until 4:20 a.m. Then the split came. After leaving that remote spot, the phones first moved together, then separated. One car headed toward the hospital, while the other peeled off toward the Sunset Lakes gated community, where some of their close associates stayed. That digital trail made it look less like a random drive-by and more like a precision setup. And it didn't stop there. Investigators dug deeper into the phone data and uncovered something chilling. Melly and Sack Chaser were rocking the same exact phone model under the same service plan. That gave detectives pinpoint precision to track their every move. The data told a bone-chilling story. Both phones traveled together straight to that isolated location where the slayings allegedly happened. They sat there through the critical time frame, then split, one making its way back toward the city.
Why is that important? That shows a gun was fired inside of that car.
The other heading straight to the hospital. And it wasn't just location pings. Those phones were snitching out health stats too. Melly's own phone ended up snitching on him like a diary with receipts. It logged 70 steps at the studio, another 70 steps at 4:02 a.m., the exact time prosecutors say the slayings went down, and then a shocking 1,397 steps between 4:42 and 4:53 a.m. That sudden burst of movement lined up perfectly with claims that Melly was arranging to get scooped from the crime scene. Then came the ballistics, and that's when the fake drive-by story collapsed completely. Tests proved the fatal shots came from inside the Jeep, not outside. And when detectives searched the remote back road flagged by cell tower data, they found 8 extra casings from a .40 caliber weapon. That discovery exposed the setup, 2 separate shootings, one inside the Jeep that ended Sack Chaser and Juvie's lives, and another staged outside to sell the drive-by lie. The forensic breakdown made the truth impossible to ignore. The casings inside the Jeep were from a different caliber than the ones scattered at the scene, meaning multiple guns were used. Whoever planned this thought they could confuse experts by mixing calibers, shifting angles, and creating fake trajectories. But the science spoke louder than the lies. The bullets' paths through the Jeep told the real story. Ballistics confirmed it. The fatal shots were fired from inside the Jeep, specifically from the rear left passenger seat. The same spot surveillance showed Melly posted up.
When the drive-by was staged at 4:02 a.m., the victims were already dead.
The angles proved the shooter fired across the cabin, striking the front passenger and the right rear seat with fatal precision. And the details only got colder. The clean, close-range shots paired with the fact the victims had no defensive wounds showed one thing. The slayer had total surprise on his side, ending it instantly. Forensics also confirmed the outside gunfire came later, staged to make it look like a drive-by. The bullet holes stacked on the passenger side weren't chaos, they were part of a cover story. But the angles didn't lie. Those outside rounds didn't come from a car rolling by at high speed. They matched someone standing still, blasting into a parked Jeep, and the medical examiner dropped the final hammer. The external shots came after passing. Sack Chaser and Juvie's bodies were already lifeless when the Jeep got lit up again, proving beyond doubt the so-called drive-by was a cold-blooded cover-up. Investigators even dug up digital receipts showing the cover-up unfolding in real time. Prosecutors say Melly was FaceTiming his girl from the staging spot, already piecing together an alibi, even dropping location pins asking his people to scoop him up. But when it all hit the courtroom in 2023, the case froze in its tracks. The trial ended with a hung jury, 8 jurors ready to convict, 4 holding out for not guilty. The missing weapon, shaky questions about motive, and sloppy police work created just enough doubt to keep Melly from going down. For years, both he and Bortlen stayed quiet, acting like victims of street violence and holding the line against the charges. But in the streets, loyalty always has an expiration date, especially when you're staring down a life sentence. After 6 years of silence, the pressure finally cracked the bond.
YNW Bortlen, he could took the deal. Where did I leave Melly though, brother? Where did I leave YNW Melly and the case?
On September 9th, 2025, the Brotherhood in YNW officially died. Just hours before his own trial was set to kick off, YNW Bortlen folded, taking a plea deal that could fast-track his childhood brother Melly straight to the end row.
Counts 1 and 2 is murder in the first degree with a firearm. Those are capital offenses. The maximum and mandatory penalty is life in Florida State Prison. Counts 3 and 4 are accessory after the fact to murder in the first degree. Those are each first degree felonies. The maximum penalty is 30 years in Florida State Prison.
That one move stamped him forever in the hood, a rat in the eyes of the streets, and the ultimate betrayal in one of hip-hop's darkest sagas. For 6 years, Bortlen carried the weight, standing firm, sticking to the drive-by story, never snitching. But when jury selection was set for the very next morning, reality hit. Facing multiple life sentences, even the hardest soldier has to ask, was loyalty really worth dying in a cage? The timing was movie-level drama. His lawyers were ready for war, jurors were already called in, and then, out of nowhere, the whole script flipped. The charges stacked against him painted the picture of a young man being crushed by a system built to shatter street codes. Prosecutors had been running chess while Bortlen was stuck playing checkers, piling on charges until he was drowning with no way out. By the time they were done, he was staring at 5 potential life sentences plus another 75 years on top. What began as small accessory charges exploded into 2 counts of first-degree homicide, witness tampering, and gang activity. That upgrade wasn't random. It was the DA applying pressure, turning the screws. At first, as just an accessory, Bortlen faced time he could have stomached. But once Melly's case got shaky, prosecutors doubled down, hitting him with charges heavy enough to bury him alive. The jump to first-degree homicide was the move. In Florida, that charge means automatic life. No parole, no mercy, no escape. For a young man who'd already been rotting in a cell for years awaiting trial, The thought of never breathing free air again was the breaking point.
Now, I know some of y'all are super thugged out in here. A life sentence, what? But when he was only facing 30 years, he was like, They added the murder charges afterwards to make that nigga know, oh, you think we only want Melly? We'll fry you too. I think that made him think a little bit different.
Add on gang activity and witness tampering, and prosecutors painted him as part of a whole organized machine. Every new count stacked another life sentence on his back, giving the DA multiple ways to bury him forever. It was pure psychological warfare, crafted to break his spirit. And in the end, it worked.
In exchange for that, I'm going to adjudicate you guilty on the 2 accessory counts as well as the tampering count. I'm going to sentence you to 10 years in Florida State Prison. That will be followed by 6 years of reporting probation.
To save himself, Bortlen folded and cut a deal. Under the plea, he dodged the 2 homicide charges completely, instead pleading guilty to 2 counts of accessory after the fact.
I guess at some point after the fact, the state wants to take a proffer from you or have a discussion with you, ask you some questions about whatever that may be.
1 count of witness tampering in a capital case, and 1 count of unlawful use of a communication device. In exchange, the state dropped the 2 homicide counts, the very ones that guaranteed either a coffin or life with no exit.
Pleading to accessory to murder after the fact, you have to acknowledge that the murder happened and you assisted someone or in some way to cover the murder.
But while that deal might have spared his future in prison, it destroyed his name in the streets, forever branded as the one who cracked when the heat got too real. And here's the twist. Bortlen's freedom came with a price tag. The judge made it clear, snitching was part of the package. That meant signing a proffer, a sworn statement where he had to spill every detail about what really went down that night. That's the dagger aimed at Melly. By copping to accessory after the fact, Bortlen legally admitted the crime happened and admitted he helped cover them up. That one confession tore apart the entire defense story that this was just some random drive-by. Even worse for Melly, the plea confirmed Bortlen was in the car when it all happened, handing prosecutors fresh ammo to fire off in court. For Bortlen, the math was cold but simple. With time already served, good behavior, and sentencing guidelines, he could touch freedom in 3 to 5 years, versus risking guaranteed end in prison if convicted on the slayers, a few more years locked down, or never breathing outside air again. That's the choice he made, and it sealed the betrayal forever. But the proffer isn't just cooperation, it's the complete destruction of Melly's defense. The Queen for a Day session forces Bortlen to answer every single question about October 26, 2018, with 0 lies or half-truths. If he slips up or hides anything, the whole deal gets tossed and he's right back facing first-degree homicide charges. That's a massive incentive to spill it all, no matter how bad it buries Melly, and legally the setup is airtight. Since the agreement requires honesty under penalty of losing the deal, prosecutors can't be accused of pushing false testimony. Whatever Bortlen says becomes sworn evidence, locked in, permanent, and ready to be fired straight at his former brother in court. After 6 years of silence, the bond finally cracked.
Y'all know Melly didn't kill his 2 best friends. Like, come on. Like, we go through this every time with us, culture, being black, artists. Y'all know we targeted.
Street code says you never fold. But when you're staring at dying in a cage, even the hardest soldier starts choosing survival. For Melly, who's been locked up since February 2019, Bortlen's betrayal is the ultimate dagger to the heart of his defense. And with the retrial already locked for January 2027, the state now has exactly what it was missing. An insider ready to testify, armed with details only a day one could know. This whole saga has ripped the mask off street loyalty, exposing how the system crushes it piece by piece. Melly's camp has been loud, swearing his innocence and blasting prosecutors for what they call manipulation. They shouted, Melly didn't end his 2 best friends. Every time it's the same thing. Being black, being artists, we get targeted.
Melly looks defeated, man. It's been 7 years, bro. It's been 7 years. He looks defeated, bro. He looks defeated.
But when you look at Bortlen's reality, the math was brutal. Years already spent in a cell, and the possibility of dying behind bars forever. At that point, the choice was ice cold. Loyalty to your brother or freedom to hug your family again. The toll has been written all over both men. When Melly appeared in court for a bond hearing, you could see it clearly. The 6 years of isolation, restrictions, and the constant shadow of execution had aged him heavily. Experts say those conditions are basically punishment before conviction, draining his mind and body day by day. But now, with Bortlen flipping and the retrial set in stone, the endgame is here. Will Melly walk free, or will his own brother's words lock him away forever? Thanks for watching. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I'll catch you on the next one.